All right, good evening. The time being 7 p.m., all members of the planning board being present, call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda item A, approval of minutes from May 12th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from May 12th, 2025.
A motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous. Moving on to agenda item B, committee reports, administrative actions. B1, committee reports. Any of the members have any committee reports they wish to make at this time?
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing none, move on to agenda item B2, town planners report. Ms. Slaughter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Coming up for our July 14th meeting, there are no new public hearings scheduled, so we'll be dealing with old business of continued hearings at that time. A final reminder that the YMCA summer camp will be held July 7th through August 15th for children's ages 5 to 13 at the Tewksbury Recreation Center at 286 Livingston Street. And folks interested in that programming can visit tewksbury-ma.gov/TewksburyYMCA. Next item, some more summer programming. Chess Wizards summer programming will be at the library again this summer. The town has a partnership with the program called Chess Wizards, which brings youth chess classes to the Tewksbury Public Library for a full week of programming this August. Chess Wizards will bring youth lessons, exciting tournaments, and fun activities located at 300 Chandler Street in Tewksbury from August 11th to the 15th. Both half-day and full-day operations are available for folks, and those interested can go directly to chesswizards.com and search Tewksbury programming. Another note that the Tewksbury Community Market will be off this week. It will not be in session due to the June 19th holiday, and town offices will be closed. It will return next week, June 26th, with another 30-plus vendor lineup, and more information can be obtained at tewksburymarket.com. Tomorrow is the town's last day of school summer kickoff event down at Livingston Street. So the town departments, in cooperation with the elementary school PACs, are collaborating on a last day of school summer kickoff event tomorrow, Tuesday, June 17th from 1 to 3 p.m. at Livingston Street Parks behind the Recreation Center. The celebration will feature crafts for teens and littles, a touch of truck, ice cream truck, music, games, and more. This is a free event organized through Town Hall staff, Tewksbury Police, Fire, the library, and our elementary school PACs with the generous support of Wamisit Lanes and Atamian Honda. Next item, Mass Means Business is a new statewide initiative aimed at making it easier to do business in Massachusetts and enhance the state's economic competitiveness. The Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulations is conducting reviews of state-level business operations to eliminate redundancies and inconsistencies in permitting and licensing to promote ease of access to business operations in the state. And folks can visit mass.gov/massmeansbusiness for more information on that. And next up is the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments Greater Lowell Bike and Pedestrian Plan. This is a collaborative effort between NIMCOG and the Northern Middlesex Metropolitan Planning Organization, consultants, and the project's advisory committee to improve walking and biking infrastructure in the region. For more information on that, you can visit nimcog.org/GL Bike Ped Plan. And if anybody has more questions, I can answer those. And last item, land disturbance permits. This is something that has come up among staff conversations. Of course, this board is the purveyor of land disturbance permits in town, and there has been some discussion about transitioning those to the Conservation Commission. So the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Bylaw, which is Chapter 19 of our general bylaws, was established in 2007, amended in 2011, and further amended in 2020. The latest version of that bylaw established a public hearing requirement to be implemented by the planning board and its agents. Through 5 years of implementation, the land disturbance permit process has been observed to primarily accompany larger developments where site plan approval and notice of intent filings are required. The few times that land disturbance has been required otherwise have been for a select few single-family home projects, for which notice of intent was required with the Conservation Commission, whose review process includes a stormwater review. And this creates a bit of a duplicative effort and an administrative burden for applicants who could reasonably condense the stormwater review with the notice of intent filing rather than a separate application to the planning board just for the purposes of stormwater review. Through discussions with the conservation agent, members of the engineering division, and other town staff, we are recommending to explore transitioning the land disturbance permit process from the planning board to the Conservation Commission. This will streamline permitting for those properties under the jurisdiction and relieves applicants of additional administrative burdens. Compliance with Chapter 19 will still be achieved through a comprehensive stormwater review process, but the permit itself would be granted by the commission. That's something that we would be hoping to bring to town meeting in October if folks were amenable, so I'm happy to answer any questions on that or any of the other activities that I spoke about.
Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Lara, so what would the criteria be to determine what delineates a minor land disturbance permit as opposed to a larger one?
So there are a few triggers in Chapter 19, but primarily the defining factor is the level of disturbance in square footage terms. So minus 20,000 square feet is considered a minor land disturbance permit. Anything over is considered a major. The major is what requires the public hearing process. But those criteria wouldn't be changing. It would just be that the permit issuance would come from the Conservation Commission rather than this board.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of that, obviously, if an applicant should come, to you, looking for some direction there, so you would be able to instantly say, yeah, how many square feet? Oh, it's 20,000 square feet. Okay, you can do the Conservation Commission road.
Well, we're talking about transitioning all land disturbance permits to the Conservation Commission, minor and major, because that's something that they're already doing as a part of the notice of intent filing process, which is their permitting process. Stormwater review is already a component of that. So right now, the stormwater review is subject to two separate permit processes, but it's the review of the same material.
My gut instinct is that the planning board should at least have a look at it. At this point right here, I know we're just talking preliminary discussion here, but at some point, to kind of hand off that entire responsibility without planning board having, any chance to weigh in on it. At least right now, that's what I'm thinking.
So it wouldn't be all projects. It would really just be limited to those that wouldn't otherwise come to the planning board, which is really single-family homes. There are single-family homes that are in wetland jurisdictional areas that do have to file for the notice of intent, and depending on the level of project, they often have to file for land disturbance. And right now, it's effectively two of a similar permit going to two different boards, but it's really accomplishing the same thing. But that wouldn't change the fact that projects that are larger scale, commercial, industrial, or otherwise, are still coming to the board for site plan review, but those also generally go to the Conservation Commission for a notice of intent filing anyway. So it really is only going to affect those smaller residential projects, single-family homes, that instead of having to go to two boards, they're consolidating it in one, especially where this board generally handles discussing uses. So if we're talking about a by right use, instead of having them come here and effectively opening the door for discussion about whether the use is appropriate when it's already something that's allowed by right, and trying to narrow the focus to a stormwater discussion, it would go to a board that already primarily deals with stormwater discussions. That was the logic.
No, it seems like reasonable approach, for sure. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman. So my only concern, Alex, would be the fact that this board is an elected board by the town versus conservation, which is appointed, I think, right? So I'm not sure how the transition is in the Conservation Commission compared to our board, as far as how often do they stay on, how often do they leave, and all that. So that would be my only concern, as far as just consistency with reviewing the permit versus somebody else. But
Sure, yeah, the Conservation Commission at this point has had the same composition of members at least for the last 2 years, with at least 3 of the members upwards of 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, that was my only concern, but has to get passed by town meeting anyway, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I'll send Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. Moving on to agenda item B3, 999 Whipple Road Site Plan Modification Determination.
this year, Alex.
Yeah, it's fine. Just wanted to turn it this way.
Is settled, just give your names for the record, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Kevin Hardeman, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Tony Westpizer with Weston and Sampson.
So we're here in front of the board to discuss a modification to the site plan approval for the new DPW facility. As we were going through the planning and design process, we found that there's actually a stump dump on the site. Per state regulations, we had to go through the process with Mass DEP to close that stump dump out. A portion of that stump area is within the developed site. It's going to be partially under the building, which we removed that material, and under the parking lot, so it would have a paved cover over it. A portion way out back was going to be left as a gravel cap. We had numerous discussions with DEP. That was approved in concept by DEP. We were going to put a orange snow fence down and then about 3 feet of a gravel cap over that to protect that area. Prior to DEP issuing their final permit, they decided that that area needs to be paved. And that paved area was not part of what we brought to this board back a few years ago. So we're back in front of you now because per the zoning bylaw, that's a greater than 250 square foot increase in impervious area. However, there's a condition in the permit that allows the planning board to deem if that modification is minor and can be captured on the as-built, or if a new public hearing has to be open. So we're here in front of the board to have that discussion, get some direction.
Okay. We'll start with Mr. Champlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is all coming at the direction of DEP because of found conditions on the site after the design and construction began and all of that.
Correct.
What would happen if we don't do the impervious area? Do you have to remove the stump dump at what I would assume be a much greater cost?
I would imagine, yes.
Okay. Does this affect, our stormwater runoff, all of that? Do we have to, how extensive are any of those changes as a result of this?
I would say that it's not extensive. There were some changes. We were able to handle some of this area that's newly going to be paved as part of these DEP requirements. We were able to handle much of the stormwater with the existing stormwater systems. We did need to make one of the galleries, one of the stormwater systems a little bit bigger. But I would say that those were not large changes. We're not really adding any new systems. We just had to make one slightly larger.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fuchsia?
I don't have anything right now.
Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kevin, I was just thinking about the minor modification of 132,000 square feet. That seems pretty, it's actually more than the initial impervious area. But that being said, I guess I'm not exactly sure where DEP is coming from on this, but my question is, one of my questions is that, so now that we know that there's a stump dump there that's been utilized for some number of decades probably, right? Decomposing as we speak here. So what happens to that after you pave over it and start parking vehicles on it and whatever, if all those stumps stay in place and the decomposition continues over time, which I assume it will?
Yes, do you want me to take that?
Sure, yeah.
I would like to make a clarification before I begin. The minor modification that we're looking for is it's for 40,000 square feet. The 132 was originally permitted under the permit that Kevin referenced. So there was originally 191,000 square feet. We proposed in our original permit documents another 132,000. So right now, what we're here before the board asking for is whether or not the addition of a total of 40,500 would be considered compared to the total of 323. So I can review those numbers if you want. As far as just the building itself, just so you know about decomposition, any decomposition about stumps and so forth, we did do what are called ground improvements. We went through the stump landfill with what are often referred to as rammed aggregate piers down to virgin soil beneath to native soil, I should say. So most of the building and some of the periphery paved areas are supported by those ground improvements. And as far as out in the paved areas, there could be areas of isolated differential settlement. If you had a pocket of stumps that degraded and created a void, that is something that we had discussions with the town, with Kevin and his predecessor. And rather than incur the cost to remove all of that or try to do ground improvements throughout, the town opted to just adopt a program of maintenance. So if there's an area that there is some settling of pavement, the DPW is well equipped to go in there, cut out the stuff that's settling, kind of bring it back up and get it back to grade, if that answers your question.
No, it does, and I'm not here to second guess DEP. I mean, I just, the original cap that was going to be there, if you will, was going to be gravel. And was there some particular reason that they didn't want gravel there anymore, or that had to be impervious?
They haven't really indicated a specific reason. They just wanted the entire
Yeah.
landfill area to be capped consistently.
And I don't have a problem with any of that. I'm sure that they've covered with the drainage and so on and so forth. My only concern is if 2 years from now, you end up with a sinkhole there, and the new pavement, brand new pavement is now sinking down there. Now we're all on the hook. We're all on the hook for what could be a very expensive and extensive repair. And I'm just wondering if before we go ahead and cap that part of it, if maybe you could have another conversation with DEP and say, hey, Jim Duffy from the planning board had some concern that if we leave the stump dump there and cap over it with impervious material, that we may get a sinkhole that the town would be on the hook for. Now, if they want to say, oh no, we'll take care of that if it happens, which I'm sure they won't, but that's my main concern there, I guess.
And that I understand. My guess would be DEP would come back to us and say, well, you put it in the ground. We as a town created this problem by burying stumps there years ago. So it's on us to find a way to deal with it.
I just don't want to create a problem that's going to rear its ugly head sooner rather than later. Now, is there a way that that particular area, if you're only talking 40,000 square feet, maybe does that get an additional, additional compaction maybe, or does it have to maybe, meet a certain resistance with compaction?
So to kind of break down the numbers about that 40,000 square feet, right? 11,000 of that is the drainage system that is being installed and enlarged, right? So that has been excavated, and that is, effectively down to native soils. The balance of that, the 29,000 square feet or so, are areas where, there may be some debris underground, but we've trenched through it for utilities. We've encountered things. We've taken stuff out of the ground. It's not as though it's just a pile of stumps that were buried and covered over. I mean, and Tony knows as well as I do, we've been out there for test pit after test pit, that it's not consistent. You'll do 10 test pits and find dirt, and then you do an 11th test pit and you find a stump. And therefore DEP has drawn these, and they're on the boards if Tony wants to show folks, they've drawn these kind of polygons around where material has been found on site. And, it's not, like I said, it's not just consistently stumps everywhere in those red areas. But stumps do exist. We've dealt with a lot of it, gotten a lot of it out of the ground.
Do you know how long ago they stopped using it as a stump dump, Kevin?
I don't.
No, okay.
My guess would be probably 20, 25 years.
Plus years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem at all with what DEP's requesting that. I don't really understand it completely. But, you know, if you guys say it's okay, then,
The last thing I want is to have a substandard building and substandard site. You know, we're doing everything we can to get everything we find out of the ground.
Sure.
But as you know, DEP will, you know, cast a broad brush, and
Yeah.
we've got to meet their requirements.
all right, well, thank you very much, both of you, for that info.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Fratelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Hardeman, just to clarify things, were you aware the stump dump was there before or not?
Yes,
Okay, so we knew it was there.
yes.
All right, so, I mean, we have a history of this town of dumping a lot of stuff everywhere around town. What I don't want to see is this dump just being left there and not dealt with properly. You know, you started it now, but is there any way of cleaning up the entire stump dump or not? Or is that just too costly?
It's too costly. You know, that would involve excavating, you know, the 29,000+ square feet of area and bringing in clean fill underneath that.
So what's going to be on top of this stump dump as far as, is it a building on top of it or driveway? I mean,
This is
parking lot?
asphalt.
Okay, just asphalt?
Yes.
There's no building on top of it to?
Nope.
Good, okay, all right. So in the cap in the future is going to be still gravel?
No, the DEP is requiring it to be paved.
Okay, well, that's what I thought, I read that, but he mentioned gravel, but I said,
Initially, discussions with DEP were allowing us to leave areas that weren't in our site, right, that weren't building or planned for our paved parking areas and drive areas to be gravel. But when DEP got to the point where they were issuing their permit, they modified that so that any stump area that was identified would have to be paved.
okay. So now the big question is, what's the cost going to be to the town for the additional work involved here? Or is that going to be covered by the budget we approved at town meeting?
So it is covered within the contingency of the project, so there's no additional funding that we're requesting. The rough cost is about $450,000.
Wow, that's a lot of money,
Yes, it
a
is.
real lot of money.
Yeah,
We have that in the budget contingency-wise?
yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Holy cow, that's a real lot of money. I thought it was going to be a lot less than that, but that's removal of the stumps, right, that are somewhat, and then,
Yeah, and paving the area and installing the drainage system.
okay, well. So how are we with the project going forward? Are we online still, or as far as, are we over budget, under budget, or how's that working now?
We're right on budget.
Okay,
Yeah. Yep.
even with this stump issue?
Yep, because there's always contingency built into the budget, and the design was done really well, so there weren't a whole lot of change orders along the way. You know, a few minor ones here and there, but then this one is the big one.
Okay. So let me ask you quite another question. The stump dump that's there, will that affect any other abutting properties?
No,
No.
No.
So it's in enough on our DPW lot?
Yep.
That it won't affect the properties behind the Pond Street, all that? Nothing? Huh? Okay. All right, good. You know, I hate to see this come about, but, you know, we have to accommodate DEP, whatever,
Yeah.
and move forward. So, yeah, so that I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Chair's all set as well. So what's the pleasure of the board as to the modification determination?
So, Mr. Chairman, it seems to me that if we go ahead with a minor modification, we can resolve that tonight, correct, rather than having to go forward. So with that, I would suggest to my board members that this be a minor modification, and that Mr. Hardeman has it covered with the Weston Sampson people there, I think, and move forward with the minor modification.
So we have a motion, and then that'll be dealt with on the as-built?
yes.
All right, so we have a motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Brings us to agenda item B4, 118 Heath Street, approval not required plan. Do we have anybody here for 118 Heath Street?
Yeah, here he is.
Oh.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Hushmand Afshar from Taj Engineering, LLC. And tonight I'm here to represent the owner of 118 Heath Street, requesting for a approval not required plan. The applicant and the owner, he did apologize for not being present here tonight. He just went through a kidney transplant and he's actually out of state and he couldn't make it. If I can,
Just grab the mobile mic if you're going to talk while you're standing.
This is the lot right here, and Alder Road is a 40 feet wide paper street, which has not been accepted, which has not been constructed, and has not been, as a result, developed. The abutters to this paper street, right at the intersection with Heath Street, for decades have been using this portion of the paper street. They have built landscaped area, they have built carports, a play area, and so on and so forth. Fenced out, and so on and so forth, which is very common in case of these paper streets. Abutters use them, they are not built, they are not developed, and they just become part of their property. This practice throughout the Commonwealth is very common. This is an example of the exact same nature. The abutters, this is in town of Chancellor, the abutters abutting to this paper street called Newfield Street, which was not developed, which was not accepted and built, went before planning board just not too far ago, not too long ago, and planning board approved, the plan got recorded, and each one got their part to the center of the papers. This is another example in another town, Northampton, and this is again another paper street. This abutter got the orange, the other abutter on the other side. All these abutters, they got to the center of the road, their own part. And the planning board endorsed, approved, plan got recorded, and title got, this was a fee simple, the ownership got recorded. I'll go through this real quick. This is again another example.
That mic's cutting out. I'm just going to give you that one.
Might be my voice is not too good. This is another example again that planning board endorsed. It got recorded, and again abutters got to the center of the paper street, at Lansdale Avenue, and so on and so forth. I have several cases here that I can just paid through. In one case, even the town engineer himself signed off on the plan. The abutter got to the center of the road, and a new address was even assigned. And again, the planning board was endorsed. So this is the same example, that this abutter got this part, and on the next subdivision, the other abutter got the other to the center of the road. In this case, the town engineer himself, Mr. Rossini Smith, this office has assigned a house number to a new accessory dwelling unit, ADU, on the existing property, 13 Oliver Street, and so on and so forth. So they assigned, they transferred to the center of the paper street, not built, not constructed, to the abutting property. And I have several other examples. I also would like, if you allow me, to read a statement from former president of Massachusetts Association of Land Surveyors and Civil Engineers. She's stating that the lyric fee statute in Massachusetts, MGL Chapter 183, Section 58, generally means that if a deed to land abutting a way, like a road or path, does not explicitly say otherwise, the grantee, that's the buyer, automatically gets ownership of the way up to its center line, or the entire width in some cases. This helps resolve disputes about ownership of these narrow strips of land that often fall between properties. And I have several pages of Mass General Law and so on and so forth here, which I'm sure, it's not in the time of this board, I go through all of them. I mean, keeping in view that the main intention of Mass General Law is the welfare of the public and protection of the citizen, for all practical purposes, I think this makes quite sense, and it has been practiced throughout the Commonwealth everywhere, as I just exhibited to you. So with that, I think the applicant is requesting the approval of this A&R plan. Thank you.
Mr. Fratelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're talking about a 40-foot piece of land here, correct? And
Half of it.
He wants half of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he wants 20 feet
Yes, sir.
of this
Yes, sir.
unaccepted lot,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And what's it used for now?
He's just using it as his backyard, as an extension of his backyard.
Okay.
Probably playground, I have shown on the plan, a temporary carport, things like that. Just household general use of a backyard.
Yeah. I think I'd like to see our town council get involved and decide what is appropriate here, rather than us having to make the decision now. Because I gotta tell you, I've been on this board for a long time, and this has never come in front of us before.
I understand that.
Okay, so, and, most of us, except Mr. Johnson, who's a senior man here, might have seen it, but I know I haven't. So for that matter, I mean, I'm not familiar with this type of transaction here, so I'd like to see us present it to the town council, get an opinion from him, and see where it goes. Just my opinion. I'm only one person on this board, but, so what is 118A and B used for now? There's two homes there?
They're duplex.
Duplex, right.
Yes, the applicant and a relative, I believe.
Okay. Oh, so it's owner occupied?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right, so With that said, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set. I don't know how to progress here, but that
Mr.
was a
Duffy?
suggestion.
I'm 100% with my colleague here. I think definitely this is something that town council needs to take a look at. But let me ask you this question. So you're talking about taking half of the 40 feet that comes out onto Heath Street, right?
It just happens that this particular lot is at the intersection of Heath and the Paper Street. It could be somewhere up the road. Anybody on that road, as I showed you in several cases, can claim the ownership.
So, yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So that 40-foot wide Paper Street continues up the adjacent street, which is Oak Road, probably to the next intersection, maybe. I don't really see that on any of the information, but what happens to that?
All the abutters, it's probably outgrown. There are trees, they're already probably using it. So all the abutters, according to chapter 183, section 58, and all the case laws that is being practiced throughout the state are entitled to it. They can come before the board, or in some cases, even like I said, the town engineer just signs off on them. They are so familiar with it that they just sign off on it, and it becomes part of one's backyard.
Hey, what if the abutter doesn't want that other 20-foot piece? What if they don't want it?
The other abutter on the other side could claim it, could ask for it.
So let me ask you this question. So everybody, that paper road that goes that goes from Heath Street down Oak Road to wherever it ends up there, is all being used right now. Every one of those houses has something on that property in their backyard. They're using it anyways.
Yes, most likely.
So that raises a question for me, is like, what's the intention? Like, why do you need to get that extra 20 feet to try to make that official, as opposed to just continuing to use it the way that you're using it?
Well, it's question of real estate, it's question of cleaning up the documents, set the record straight, and it's a good question for all those who are going through this practice and attaching this piece of road or way or path to their property. I mean, I know it means you will pay more real estate taxes, but there is not one case, to my many years of experience, that, of course, none happened in this town. It's just my bad luck, but there is no one instance that an abutter did not want 1,000 square foot, 800 square foot, whatever.
And that's just one of many, many issues that could come up with this. So that's why I'm going to go back to, I think that Mr. Vitale is right on point, and I think that this is more of a legal issue than it is at this point a planning board issue for me, from my perspective.
Even though it's being practiced as we speak?
I'm sorry?
Even though it is being practiced throughout the Commonwealth as we speak?
That's not really for me anyways, not for me to make that determination.
It's more of a land court decision, really, and it should probably go to land court to decide, on what's the status of this land. Rather than him just say, I want to take it, and us sign off on it. I don't want to do that.
Sir, I just showed
The other
you.
butters have rights to it too, as well, I would think.
Yeah, the other abutter can come and claim his portion too. But I just showed you many recorded plans that many other planning boards or even town engineers in some cases have signed off on it. It's a common practice. The problem is, like you said, you have never done it in this town, but lack of information is not an indication of, it's basically innocent till proven guilty.
I don't want to make it a practice here in the event I'm wrong. So that's why I suggest we go to the attorney of the town, get his opinion on it, And it may end up in land court as well, so, but my opinion, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fusion?
I kind of feel the same way. It's just like anybody could go around and just grab a piece of land somewhere. I think it should be discussed more with the council. I don't think it's a planning board decision at this moment until we find out.
Mr. Chairman?
So here's what I'm seeing. That paper street connects 3, possibly 4 other properties who currently right now have access on that paper street to travel between 118 Heath and 128 Heath to access Heath Street.
That's not true. That's why it's called paper street, because it's undeveloped and it's not being used. It's being used at people's backyard.
What I'm saying is, those other property owners have the right to access that paper street. They may not want to. Maybe it's undeveloped, maybe it's not safe for travel, but right now, that's not privately owned land.
You
It
mean,
means it's public owned, which means those other abutters have the right to access that paper street to get to Heath Street.
you mean,
Granted this, that would restrict the rights of several other property owners.
you mean to use it as a passage, as a means of egress?
I mean that they have access to use that 40-foot strip of land to get from their backyards to Heath Street, as opposed to traveling on Oak Street.
That's why it's a paper street, because it's not being used they cannot. It's a fatherless child. The town did not accept it. The town didn't put money and effort to develop it. And again, it's being practiced throughout the Commonwealth.
Quite hearing each other here. So what you're saying is, it's a paper street, but nobody can use it. That's what you're saying. Nobody can walk on it, nobody can put their shed on it, nobody can put their landscape materials on it.
They
Nobody can
can.
put their carport on it.
They can, and they are doing it, but they cannot use it as a means of egress and access.
What I'm saying is, they have, those other abutters, if that paper street is behind them, they have the same rights to use that paper street or access it or store anything on it as any of those other abutters. You don't just own the part that's behind your house. That whole paper street is equally shared. It's equally accessible to everyone that abuts it. Close off a section of it, now you're restricting the access, you're restricting the rights of the people further along.
That's not true, sir. That's not true. You can,
Tell me how making that private land leaves it open to those other abutters to travel on it, because then they'd be trespassing if they walked on it.
in most cases, it is outgrown. In some cases, there is trees. You cannot even drive your bicycle through it.
Okay, I can walk, right?
You can walk, but
Okay.
I can claim I'm abiding to that according to the Mass General Law and according to the common practice throughout the Commonwealth, as I showed you.
Well, that's the part that's
I
going to
can
go
claim.
to town council and/or land court or
That's
anything
fine.
else. But what I'm saying is, I don't feel comfortable granting a piece of accessible land, whether it's public land but it's certainly not privately owned land, and closing that off to other people who may have a right to some or all of it.
So what do you say to the fact that other board members of the planning boards in other towns and cities of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have felt very comfortable and found it a common practice and signed off on it? The Registry of
Unfortunately for you,
Deeds,
sir, you're for a board that tends to go its own way, so we don't necessarily swim up along the stream as all the other cities and towns in Massachusetts.
okay, then it goes back to Mass General Law.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, you got 2 sections noted on your plan, 81-7K12 and 82-23. You know what those are?
Those are just examples that
Yeah, that's not what you wrote here, though, right?
it's,
Because it's basically, you cited them as if they were making your point.
no, but I'm saying section 180, chapter 183, section 58.
Yeah, I'm asking, you've got on your plan, you cited Mass General Law 81.7K12. Do you know what it is?
I have read it, yes.
Okay, what is it?
It is a similar situation that
When Mass Highway abandons a way,
Mass Highway,
not here, though, right? Mass Highway doesn't have anything to do with this.
Okay, it was a public road, which was
But I
not.
mean, you're making it sound like you're quoting Mass General laws on here. They have nothing to do with what you have on your plan at all. So you can understand why some of the folks up here might have a little bit of a concern when you just cite Mass General law just sort of randomly and tell us, that applies. When you, right on your own plan, you've got one here that is not in any way applicable to what you have on this plan.
That is also refers to a public road, but that is not a big
And by
problem.
Mass Highway, Mass DOT.
Okay,
Well, Mass DOT isn't going to have anything to do with a way in Tewksbury on a side street of a paper street.
that can be removed easily from the plan.
That really wasn't the point I was getting at. My point is that you're citing Mass General laws, and the other one doesn't apply either, by the way. So you're using Mass General law citations on your A&R plan here to make it sound like, wow, Mass General law, and then you cite Mass General law as you're discussing it with us, and you keep saying that other planning boards have done what other planning boards have done, but we have no background information on any of that. What's to say every single one of those planning boards didn't send it to their town council before they signed off on it? You make it sound ridiculous that anyone on the board here is suggesting this might go to town council. The fact that you came in here without a legal opinion from an attorney to back up what you're claiming here, there's no way this board would be in a position to say that this road has been abandoned and that anybody has a right to 50% of any of it at this point. You might have an adverse possession claim for what they've been doing on that, as any of the other people that are abutting this paper street might. But that's not for us to determine, and if you wanted us to be able to make this decision, you should have come in here tonight with a legal opinion to back up what you're saying, rather than just you telling us what you think the law is. Because that's not for you to be telling us what the law is, for one, and no one on this board is going to be able to take what you just brought up and just flip pages over saying, this planning board's done this planning board's done that, with absolutely no background information whatsoever as to how they reached those decisions. They got to them eventually. I have no idea how. For all I know, they did get some sort of decision from someone, and that's why they signed off on it. I have no idea, because you didn't bring anything. All you brought was the outcome. That doesn't help anyone here. So what you have here is not sufficient in any way for anyone on this board right now to make a decision and sign off on this. Now, since you didn't do any of the background legal work, we have no choice but to send this to
That's
town
fine.
council.
We have no objection
An
to
answer
that.
for it.
Yeah, we have no objection to that.
Okay, so, Ms. Louder, because this isn't our normal circumstance, if we're sending this to town council, who's footing the bill for this? Because at this point, it sounds like we're doing the work for the applicant, and I'm not really sure why we're doing that.
So ordinarily, the town council would review a legal opinion that has been submitted to the board. Now, if we just submitted the application as is with the assertion that the derelict fee statute, which is what the applicant is referencing, is applicable, without search into title to figure out whether the situation meets the circumstances that would allow for this, he could agree in principle, just as I have advised the board, that yes, the derelict fee statute could be applicable, but we haven't seen any analysis to support that. And generally speaking, an analysis would want to be submitted to town council for him to evaluate, rather than him do the analysis himself, because the burden of proof is on the applicant and not town council.
Okay, so the short version of that is, we can send it to town council, and even when town council gives his decision, it's not going to be enough without you coming in with a legal opinion for him to look at. So we can do that, but it's not going to get us anywhere to a final decision on this without getting a legal opinion coming in from the applicant that backs up what the applicant is proposing to the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if we come back with a legal opinion, will there be more questions?
How could I possibly know if there'll be more questions until we see the legal opinion?
Yeah.
For one, and the legal opinion at that point is going to go to town council. And town council may or may not have questions about the legal opinion, because I have no idea who's preparing it. I don't know how thorough it will be. How could I possibly know that in advance? If it's 1,000% buttoned up, and perfect, I suspect less questions than if it's done haphazardly and not well, in which case many questions might come. But I really couldn't tell you that now.
So you're not going to send it to your town council?
If you want me to send it to town council, that's fine, but as you were just told by Ms. Louder, even if town council says that the statute you're talking about might be applicable, he's not going to give a definitive opinion for you, because that's from your side of the table it needs to come from, that you're getting a legal opinion that's saying what you need it to say for him to look at and say, I agree, at which point he's advising us that we're okay with signing this as an A&R. So, I mean, yes, we can do it, but it's not going to complete the process. All that's going to do is it's going to go to town council and then get kicked back to us, so the next time you come in, we can tell you to go get a legal opinion. Or you can just do that now, because we're telling you now. But that's up to you.
There is a third option. We could just walk away. You could just.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you could choose not to go forward, but that's, that's also an option. But as far as trying to move the process forward,
Yeah, that's fine with us. You can, we will.
I mean, for our purposes, this can go to town council and you can send in the legal opinion to town council all in one, and then it can come back to us.
That's fine.
That's fine. You don't have to come
That's
bring
okay.
it back to us. It just
That's
needs to
okay.
come in. But like I said, without him receiving that, he's not going to be able to make a definitive final decision
That's
that the
okay.
board can act on.
Sure.
All right?
No, that's fine. We have no problem to pave the road for those who come after us.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Just to confirm, Mr. Chairman, we'll take this matter up at the July 14th meeting, provided that a legal opinion has been submitted enough time with
Yeah,
town
that's
council to
fine.
be able to review.
I mean, it's
Okay.
just going in the administrative action.
We'll
so-
continue it, right?
Yep.
But, yeah, we don't have to do that, though, because it's administrative action, so. All right, moving on to B5, 900 Livingston Street, A&R plan. Let's see if this one's a little simpler.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Dick Cuco from Woodland Design, representing AJ A&M Land. We were here a month or so ago to subdivide this property into 2 lots, and then we were kind of advised by the realtors that it was leaving quite a bit of land in the back that is under the power line and mostly burdened by wetlands, to have overburdened the owners of these 2 lots. So it was determined that what we should do is to create lots 1 and 2, make those an acre each, and lot 3, which is labeled as not a building lot, will be 7.6 acres. The possibility is that that 7.6 acres could either be used as open space, could be given to the Conservation Commission, could be given to another abutter, but it would not overburden the owners of the 2 new homes that are going to be built on Lot 1 and 2. Not always the easiest thing to give that open space to the town, as we well know on other applications. So, but that's why we've got it labeled as not a building lot. So it's not to coin an expression, but it's pretty common practice. The fact that there's a power line easement over there gives access to that back. However, much of it is unusable. So it was determined by the owners that they didn't want to overburden the landowners with a tax bill for 6 acres of land when they can only use about a half an acre.
Okay. All right. Mr. Fuchsia?
So what you're saying is you're going to give the rest of the land to the town? Is that what you're saying?
No, it could be, or it could be given to the town or given to another abutter or left as in conservation open space.
And how does that work? How does it go to conservation?
So, well, that's a different process. All this is really doing is that they're showing that they can break this up into 3 pieces, and the 2 in the front would be the ones that would be developed and sold. They're just not going to take everything with it.
Okay.
So the original owners would be holding on to the 3rd lot
Okay.
unless and until they can either donate it or whatever, and if not, they have it, but it's just not going to be made part of these other lots where they just have all this space.
Okay, that's it.
All right, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kuko, have you, I'm looking at the map and it doesn't really show who the abutters are there. Have you spoken to either one of the abutters on either side of that back parcel?
No.
No. So I'm just curious, I mean, I know it's got a power easement and a lot of wetlands and it's unbuildable, you know, if anybody would really even, and there's no access to it from anywhere.
Yeah.
Would anybody even be interested in that?
Well, there's a 30-acre vacant parcel to the south of that.
Is there what?
There's a 30-acre vacant parcel on the bottom side of the, as you're looking at the map, which may or may not be developed sometime in the future. So that's a possibility.
So that trapezoid off the top end of that, is that what we're looking at right there? You're saying that's 30 acres? Down here?
The lot to the south.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I don't see any problems at all, like, you know, with the front two lots. I'm just curious that back lot, you know, could just end up being a burden or abandoned, basically, even.
Well, it's pretty well encumbered by wetlands and power lines, so it comes down to, you know, we have, Lot 1 has about 30,000 square feet of usable land. Lot 2 has about the same, and they'd be getting a tax bill for a 6-acre lot.
Well, let me just ask you this question. So basically, they're just trying to save some money by not paying taxes on unusable land?
Yeah, it also comes down, we've had this situation on Marston Street, and we had this situation on a couple others where the property owners, they buy a new house, and they have all this land that they can't do anything with. It kind of lends them to the situation of possibly saying, oh, well, maybe I'll go out there and do something because I have all this acreage and it's wetlands and they're not supposed to be out there. And it just makes it a lot easier. It's easier for the title companies so that they have a lot. They know this is all they got. This is all they're paying taxes on. They're not paying taxes on land that they can't use. And then from a liability standpoint, there are a lot of people who drive dirt bikes up the railroad track and kind of maybe meander through this property. And so the developer didn't want to have the two new homeowners have to worry about having people possibly get injured on land that they don't even ever use.
Where are the railroad tracks, Mr. Kuko? I don't see them on the plan.
Yeah, there's a big,
I have a better plan than I do.
That's the lot we're talking about.
Okay.
yeah, because there's a small piece of land in there, Mr. Duffy,
Yeah.
where it shows Commonwealth, Mass. And then from there, it's the railroad track, and then there's the soccer fields. So,
Yeah.
and
Is
then.
there any other option from the town standpoint, Ms. Otter, for a homeowner with that kind of property?
As
to-
Mr. Johnson noted, the discussion about what to do with the remaining 7 acres will be a discussion that happens outside of this room.
Okay.
Because from where I'm looking at it, there's only 3 contiguous abutters. The property that Mr. Kuko indicated at 880 Livingston Street, which is the undeveloped land, also largely wet. The back of Randolph Drive, the back of Farmall Drive's open space, the adjacent subdivision, and then the MBTA railroad track. So unless one of the 4 of those folks is interested, I don't think, not speaking for the rest of town staff, it wouldn't be typical for the town to accept land it cannot access. But that, again, that's a conversation that would happen elsewhere once the land is subdivided and the parcel is created.
So, in the interim, Mr. Kuko, if I understand this right, then we're going to be basically taking that property, splitting it into 3 lots, until there is some kind of a resolution with the unusable lot.
Yeah. That's why it's labeled not a buildable lot.
Property owner is still going to continue to pay taxes on it.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, if that's the case, then I would feel comfortable going forward with with the lot 1 and 2 and 3 as proposed.
Yeah, just to follow up on that too, is that because that lot doesn't have frontage, it would be taxed at a much lower rate. So that the original owner keeping it, it's not a burden as opposed to two new homeowners having that land, which would be added to their lot, which would be substantially more higher.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you for that. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Cuco, I know what you're trying to do here, and I know it's been done in the past. You mentioned Marston Street, we were here for that. And, so that abuts Rogers Park, which is a little different than this
Yeah,
scenario
right.
because you can actually access it and, it's more space for the animals that are in town to graze on and use for whatever purposes they want. But, I understand what you want to do. We'll make 3 lots, and the new owners of those lots will not be paying the full amount of taxes. So with that, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Champa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also see what you're trying to do here. I just have one question. Minimum lot frontage is 150 feet normally for an R40 district.
Correct.
Did you think about maybe extending the back lot line of Lot 2 so that you could maybe widen the frontage of Lot 1?
Yeah, we can't
And
do that.
therefore avoid having to go before the ZBA?
No, we already have a variance.
You already have the variance?
Yeah.
Oh, well then, neat. Okay.
And actually, it's, on paper, it looks good, but that dotted line there is the edge of the power line easement, so the home on Lot 2 is going to be between the lot line and the edge of that power easement. They'll own all that land, as we explained that when we came in the last time. They'll have a nice big lawn.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Chair is all set as well. What is the pleasure of the board on the approval not required plan?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we endorse the approval not required plan submitted tonight to make 3 lots with 1 non-buildable and the other 2 buildable.
All right, I have a motion made. Do I have a second? Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to agenda item C, 130 Roundsville Road, Family Suite Special Permit. Do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved.
A motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Do we have anybody here for 130? All right, once you get settled, if you give your names for the record, the floor will be yours.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name's Tom McGuire. This is my...
Michelle McGuire.
All right, so just let us know what you're doing, and we'll go from there.
Yep, so we have an application submitted for a 1,000 square foot in-law suite on my daughter's house at 130 Roundsville. The unit would be attached by a breezeway.
All right, Mr. Champa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a couple of notes about this. So on I was using Google Street View, so maybe something has changed, but is there a chimney on the right side of the existing house?
There is.
Okay, so the additional, I don't know if you'd call it a breezeway or not, but that part that is going to lead to the garage and the family suite, is that chimney an issue there?
No, that chimney will be removed.
Okay. So you're going to be venting out the heating systems?
Correct, yep.
Okay. This note is just kind of an aesthetic. On the right side of the addition, you're going to have just one upper bedroom window and then one lower basement window. You're going to have a big wall of vinyl siding, which over time, as it warps, those lines are going to start to get wavy and whatnot. I bring it up because there's a very similar situation on Foster Road where someone did an addition of about that size, and it's just a giant wall with one little window on it. So I was just going to suggest, you may not like how that looks from the outside when all is said and done. I don't know if that's a part of the yard that you use or don't use, or if the trees are going to be right up against it, but if it's going to be something that you can view and you're going to try to beautify that side, you might think about putting like a narrow horizontal window in the bathroom, or maybe make it a double window in the bedroom, maybe even a little something up in the attic, a little, vent or something up there, just to give it a little something to break up, because it may not look like it in this picture, but it's going to be a huge wall of vinyl siding.
Okay, yep, we'll take that under advisement, absolutely.
And then you're okay with the sewer connection that you currently have? It looks like you're going to be going right over that? Do you have to reroute the sewer around the addition, or is that somehow going through?
Yeah, that sewer will be connected. I put that in there as part of the paperwork because I just wanted to show that when my daughter bought the house, the homeowners filled the Prop 5. So we're connected to town sewage now, the house, so we'll be connecting into that as well.
Okay, so the current run of the sewer line doesn't impede any of the new construction?
No,
Okay,
no.
all right. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Fuchsia?
And good luck.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It looks nice. Just one question. I know you guys are older.
Yep.
Have you thought about if you get to the point where you can't go up and downstairs?
Yeah, we have, one of the reasons we're moving, my daughter and her husband are both first responders.
Okay.
He's a firefighter and she's a nurse at Brigham and Women's. So they've kind of enticed us to come down and actually move.
Okay.
And we have thought about down the road maybe doing something with maybe a chairlift if necessary.
Okay. I'm good.
Mr. Fattalia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the addition is going to be bigger than the house?
About the same size,
Or is it? Okay.
yeah.
Seemed like I love the idea of you guys, going in with the family and so forth, and it's, hopefully I never get to that point, but I'm probably not that far away, but, so one question I had for you is the telephone pole that's
Yes.
out front with that supporting wire.
Yeah, the guide wire.
Yeah, is that going to stay?
We've looked at that. I think it will stay at this point. We've looked at the way, the garage in Tewksbury, you're going to see, and you get 20 feet
Yeah.
to get in, so that should be okay.
Okay.
We did have it looked at, though.
Yeah, I just seen it today when I was there, and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
No, it's a good
If
point.
someone comes back straight out,
Yeah.
they may have an issue, but,
Yep.
like anything, once you know it's there, you always, realize it's there and don't run into it, because that would be not good if you hit that. So,
No, absolutely
I
understood.
know you have the sewer, so that's great, and I'm all in favor of your project.
No, thank you,
All set.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have, no negative comments here. I think it's a great design. It looks fantastic. The only thing that I might say is, where you guys are going to be living upstairs, is either heat the garage,
Yep.
with some type of heat.
Yep.
Or, make sure it's pretty darn well insulated.
Oh, yeah.
That is a very, very common complaint with people that build bedrooms in living areas above garages.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because the garages typically aren't heated spaces.
Yeah,
So
we
for a
plan
couple
on
extra
having
bucks,
heat.
Might be something you might want to think about.
Okay.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
Chair has nothing to add. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns on this one? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
I have a motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. As to the family suite special permit,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the family suite special permit at 130 Roundsville Road.
I have a motion made. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're all set.
Thank you.
What's the traffic on South Street? I'm going to ask you that. I know that development at the very end is pretty busy with all the trucks and stuff coming down there. That's
You're talking where the paintball going down that dirt road?
at the very end is south.
Oh, at the intersection there?
Yeah, at the very end where.
Oh, going straight down.
It's
Past-
actually Andover, but.
Yeah, yeah, at the end of the roundabout.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I really haven't been down there that frequently.
Okay.
So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, moving on to agenda item D, 85 Lowell Street, family suite special permit. Do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved.
A motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Do we have anybody here for 85 Lowell Street? get settled, if you just give your names for the record, the floor is yours.
Elaine Kraus.
I'm Joseph Fortunato.
All right? So just let us know what you're doing and go from there.
We're building a family suite on 85 Low Street. It's for my mother-in-law here. Me and my wife are taking over the main house.
All right?
You're kicking me out.
Yeah, kicking you over. Over.
Kicking me over.
All right. So we'll start with Mr. Fuchsia.
I mean, I looked at the plans earlier, it's beautiful. I really don't have anything to add to that at this moment.
All right? Mr. Duffy.
Very nice layout, nice little breezeway, separation there. You got a nice two-car, and you're going to be upstairs, and I'm sure you heard me with the last applicants there. You know, either heat that garage, because it's just really, it's impossible when it's 5 degrees out. The garage is going to be pretty cold, and you know, just to try to have that level of comfort upstairs for you, for yourself. And it's very doable, you know, with either potable gas, you know, heaters.
I'm a duck guy. I'll get that place heated.
Yeah, just a consideration, you know.
Absolutely.
Nothing that you know, me as a planning board member can make you do. I'm just throwing it out there.
You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's a very common problem, especially, you know, 30-year-old houses, you know, with not much insulation and so on and so forth. But no issues.
Mr. Fratelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So going by the house today, what is behind the white fence there? It's not a pool, is it?
Patio.
Oh, good. Okay, so how, are you going back as far as the fence or?
Like right on the line almost.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So is it the tree in the front yard staying, the one on the right coming in?
Yes.
Big one? Okay, all right. That's a pretty good sized tree.
Yeah.
So just be aware. If that comes down, it's gonna catch some of that, but whatever. And you have sewer?
Yes.
Okay, good. All set. Love the idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chamberlain?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So somebody apparently stole my notes from the last one, because you have nice windows going in on the proposed right side elevation there. The only thing that and again, this isn't something that I could make you do, but those stairs going up and down from the back deck, I couldn't quite tell if there's like a concrete stoop at the bottom or not.
There will be.
It's 14, 15 steps. So that, you know, again, over 20 years, you know, you may want to maybe reconfigure that to put a little bit of a break in it or extend it and have a little bit of a landing halfway up. You know, just the normal construction requirements on stairs is 14 stairs for regular everyday use, 16 for non-regular, you know, intermittent use, which this would fall under. But, you know, we can be a little bit friendlier here where it's family, so I just thought I'd mention that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
The chair has nothing to add. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns on this one? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. As to the family suite special permit.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the family suite special permit at 85 Low Street.
I have a motion made, do I have a second?
Second?
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous. Good luck.
good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to agenda item E, 913 East Street. This is site plan review, special permit, land disturbance permit. Do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved.
Motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Why do we get set up?
Louder, I think the town should consider offering a tripod construction seminar for all people coming before the planning board. Seems to be an ongoing part of the process.
Once you're settled, if you give your names for the record, the floor will be yours.
My name's Malcolm Hauk. I'm an attorney. I have an office at 7 Wynn Street in Woburn, and I'm here representing the petitioner, it's applicant, which is Asphalt Services, Inc.
Bill Lucas with Bowler Engineering at 45 Franklin Street in Boston.
Floor is yours, gentlemen.
What we have here is we're seeking site plan review and special permit for the property at 913 East Street. It's going to be redeveloped with a newly constructed building. Asphalt Services is in the commercial paving business, preparation, paving, rolling, and repair of existing asphalt pavements and new asphalt pavements, resurfacing, crack sealing, reclaiming, milling, and pulverizing existing pavements. So it's get rid of the potholes. That's their overall public service. ASI has about 20 registered vehicles, trucks and passenger cars, all of which will be registered in the town of Tewksbury. They're not all kept at the site. Many are at construction sites. They don't all return. So as a matter of traffic, it's largely only the 8 to 10 office employees that come and go. There was a question also about overnight parking of construction vehicles. Many of those are left at the site. They don't necessarily return on a regular basis except for maintenance. The building is going to be a contractor's building with, as you can see on the plan, several overhead doors. It's where they do the maintenance on their vehicles, and there is no vehicle maintenance for hire. It's all on Asphalt Services, Inc. owned vehicles. The building was shown on the plan as the benefit of a variance that we had gotten in, based on some preliminary plans and the approximate dimensions of the proposed building. There's a number of questions that were raised by letter on Friday, and some of those I'd like to address. Adequacy of adjacent streets to accommodate traffic. Again, there's very little inbound traffic. It's largely employees only. They don't take delivery with semi-trailers. It's not like a grocery store where they have a lot of vehicles coming and going. And as far as there was a question raised about turnaround. We have two entrances, inbound and outbound, so any larger vehicles that would have to turn around, or any public service equipment, fire equipment, come in one. And there's one at the northeasterly and one at the northwesterly corner of the property. It's a peculiar sort of wedge, dart-shaped property, triangular. And there are, on East Street, 2 separate entrances. And one of them is 30 feet wide, the northeasterly, and 26 feet wide is the existing northwesterly. So that answers some of the questions that were raised. As far as the building shown on the plan, it shows that it's 127 feet high. It's not. It's the architect's dimension where they consider the plane of the lowest part, plane of the overall ground, to be 100 feet. That way, if there's any part of the building that's below that, they don't have negative numbers. So the building itself, the structure, is 27 feet high at the eaves, and with the slope of the roof, it's approximately 36 feet to the peak of the roof. As I said, there's 8 to 12 people that come and go for the building, and driveway dimensions are shown on the plan, I think completely adequate for both the entrance and exit. As far as parking spaces in the paved area, it's located within 10 feet. The property line is very minimal. The property is encumbered by a power easement that dates back to the 1930s, or maybe even one iteration prior to that. And so they will park under that. There was a question of snow removal and snow storage. There are a couple of bins that are shown on the plan, largely for a minimal amount of materials that may be needed for driveway or parking lot paving. And they're seasonally occupied. So I'm informed by Paul Baldessaro that the one bin that is usually used for crushed stone, that's seasonal, and that's where they would move the snow to, because it would be empty in the snow during the snow season. One other question that was raised is signage. There are no planned signs. No planned signs. It's not anybody that's coming to Asphalt Services, to their place of business, knows what it is. They're not needing a sign to capture any inbound business by passersby. The most there might be a decal on the door to assist the local postman. So that's Bill Lucas addressing some engineering issues.
I can, or I can leave it up to the board members to raise any of the questions that they may have in the letter as well.
Yeah, why don't you go down? Why don't you go down that your proposal?
That's fine.
Yeah, why don't you go down there?
One of the first questions, number one, relates to existing wetlands that had been mapped on an adjacent lot. Based on our due diligence and review of that area on DEP Mass Mapper as of this year, no wetlands were identified on DEP Mass Mapper. Therefore, we moved ahead with the application showing no wetlands on there, and since then it's come to our attention with a plan that does show some wetlands on the back, so I think it's an item that still needs to be worked through. There was no wetland flags identified on that plan. It was simply just an area. So again, I'm not dismissing it, just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that from our standpoint, we did our homework. And
I might say also that when I was first informed of this, I did a full title search. I'm a land court certified, land court appointed, land court title examiner, and I did a full title, and I've done a title in preparation for the need of a variance and locating identifying the existence of the power line easement. I also checked the GIS map. I didn't see any wetlands either.
No worries, thank you. Number four relates to potentially providing a auto turn plan, which we're not opposed to. But again, we feel that the site itself is going to have trucks coming in and out of it, and it should be sufficiently sized based on the location of both driveways that are proposed for that type of vehicle to safely access the site itself.
And most of any inbound trucks or outbound are they're not tandems.
Just quickly scanning. There was a comment about continuous curbing on the site. Again, engineering item. We had left a portion of the rear as uncurbed to allow water to flow off the site or to be directed. We can include that curbing to redirect the water to any of the proposed drainage systems on the site. There is a comment for number 11 for lighting plans. We can provide a photometric plan once we understand that the building will be finalized from an architectural standpoint. We understand where the lights will be positioned on the building. There was a comment regarding parking spaces being within 10 to 20 feet of the property line abutting a street or the adjacent property. I believe there is one space currently shown on the plan on the lower left-hand side that may violate that 20-foot setback, like the corner of it. So we'll just have to make an adjustment to that on the plan, either relocate the space completely, lose it, or adjust the parking field. But again, I believe that's the statement in play here. There was no landscape plan provided. We will comply with that and provide a landscape plan. It is under review with ASI currently. Once they understand the full compliance of what we proposed on the plan, we will submit that in the future.
And along with their decisions regarding fencing, it's the entire property will be fenced, and some really nice architectural fence, John. Yes. Yeah.
I think that's it from my side.
Yep.
On the engineering portion. I know there was an engineer's letter issued as well, separate from this, and we can, go through any of those comments or concerns that you may have regarding it.
Okay. Start with Mr. Fratelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know the property, I drive by it pretty regularly, and so the fence that you're going to propose to put up is around the whole property, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any renderings of what you're going to put up there, or something similar we could take a look at, just curiously?
There are several, don't have any renderings, but there's a similar architectural fencing down the street.
Similar to the one at American Garage Door, American Gutter? Okay.
Yes.
All right. They also have it landscaped pretty good there as well, that was part of our agreement that, if you're going to put the fence up, you need to get some landscaping that's going to grow up there. It's an awful tough spot because of the corner there.
Right.
With the sand and the salting of the road and so forth, so pick your landscaping design, because it's going to get salt and sand just by the plowing effect there, so let me tell you, we had a previous project that was coming in there that didn't come in, and we were talking about sidewalks. So you're required to put sidewalks there, right on that corner as you come around. Not that anybody's going to use it, because that was my contention back a while ago, so. And I would entertain to the board possibly about using the money that you were going to provide for sidewalks there, to not put them in and put them to the sidewalk fund. Because I don't see anybody walking right in front of your fence there because of the location and because of the traffic and so forth and so on. So just listen to maybe consideration about how we handle that sidewalk issue. So I know there's a number of outstanding issues that they brought up, that you haven't resolved all of them, correct?
That's correct.
Not all.
We just received the letter on Friday, so.
I figured that, so.
I did want to expand upon your comment regarding the landscaping on the plan itself.
Yeah.
Just to give you a feel for what's happening out there, you have the road itself, and then there's about, is this on?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's about 12 feet of landscaping that's currently out there before you get to the property line. After the property line, you have about another 10 feet before we actually place the fence.
Okay.
So they'll have the ability to landscape from the property line back to the fence that first 8 to 10 feet.
Sure, okay. That's good. So one thing I noticed, and maybe it's just me, but as I drive by the site, you have those containers that are up at the railroad crossing, railroad
Yes.
behind you, and you have some yellow containers above that are on site.
I don't know what they are.
Those are salt.
Okay. Are they going to stay there?
No.
Okay, because that's what I see when I drive by. First thing I see coming down Carter Street or coming along East Street are the highest containers with the yellow sand units on there. So if you take them down, that'd be great. So
It's not, they're not shown on the plan, and I think that's just temporary.
yeah, okay, great. Are you looking for any waivers?
as far as,
how far you got, but just curious. I mean, I'm sure you'll get that as we go along, but if you need some, but whatever, but. You don't store any gravel on site, do you? Or crushed stone? Yeah?
only some broken stone, Paul?
Yeah, crushed stone.
Yeah. Crushed stone.
Okay, all right, good. And one last question. How many feet is it from the railroad crossing to that entrance on the right side there coming in? As you come up East Street before you get to the property?
You're talking about this
Yeah.
depth?
How many feet from there to the railroad?
Plans at 20 scale.
About 80 to 100 feet.
From the railroad crossing to the entrance?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Again, I'm measuring with my thumb.
I was just concerned that maybe as the vehicle's coming into your yard and has to stop for some reason with cars behind them, but that's all. Okay. All right, now I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fuchsia.
I'm all set, thank you.
Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was looking at the note about the building height. Has that been addressed?
Yes. As I said, the architects at ground level, undisturbed ground level, they call that 100 feet. That way, if there's any portion of the architectural design that's below grade, that it don't have a number. It doesn't have a negative number. So it's 27 feet from the grade to the eave of the building, and then it's the peak is about 36 feet.
So is that a new code, new building code, the outside elevation?
Just the way they do it, so they don't, I spoke to the architect, and we had to go around and around and around for me to understand it.
It's just their notation.
It's just their notation. They start everything at 100 feet and everything above, and if there was anything below, then it would be
90 feet.
If there was something 10 feet below, it would be 90 feet instead of minus 10.
I wonder if you wouldn't mind down the road just maybe submitting a little narrative on that, just so that I can look at it and understand it a little better.
I'd be glad to.
That's what
I'd be glad to. I mean, it took a while for that.
For it to sink in.
Well, for it to sink,
Well, they've changed that in the building code a number of times over the last several years. In the new edition is out.
As I was understanding, it was just an architectural protocol. I said, please explain to me why the ground is not zero and why it's 100 feet.
Because they usually sort of average it out, you know what I mean? If there was a low spot around the building and then a high spot, they used to.
Yeah, for some reason, they don't want plans to show negative dimensions.
So on the civil drawings, we denote it as less than 40 feet.
Yeah.
So it's really just a.
I don't have a major problem with it.
No, it's really just how they
you arrived
denote
at
it.
that, you know? And I guess it would be good for probably you guys too, just that there's something documented that states that we're going to be in compliance with the building height there, for the next visit. We already talked about the auto turn plan. That really shouldn't be an issue. You're going to be bringing 10-wheelers, 18-wheelers, I would imagine, in and out of there?
No, there's not that kind of delivery. You don't have 18-wheelers coming in. We have a little bit.
Okay. But
A little bit,
still,
which they bring in that's disconnected part.
Yeah.
I mean, I understood the concern to be for, example, a ladder truck, fire truck, that they can just pull in it. It's continuous.
And then what about the Conservation Commission? Are you guys making some inroads over there? He made a notation that you haven't made appropriate filings with Conservation.
No, we had not made a filing with the Conservation Commission because just based on our review, we had seen no wetlands in the area. So we were under the impression that we did not need to file. Now, at this point in time, I think we just have to have a further conversation to understand if the wetlands do exist or not. Maybe we send a wetland scientist to the site to identify that and their location. And if they do exist, then yes, we will be subject to filing an application with the Conservation Commission.
I regularly work with an environmental concern in Wakefield, and I'll speak to them promptly, and if necessary, then we'll file an RDA.
Okay, so do you feel like that you don't need a determination, or?
At this point, just basically on the information that, like I said, the plans, the JIS plans, and what is it, Mass Map?
Mass Mapper.
Mass
right,
Mapper.
DEP.
We
Yep.
didn't find anything. We didn't make any notations that there was. But if it's a matter of concern, I will contact LEC
It's just a
Environmental.
loose end, really, you know what I mean, that you want to kind of button up, I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if they,
You don't want it rearing its ugly head later on.
no, and we'll file an RDA if that's necessary.
Okay, and then you already mentioned to, I think, Mr. Champa, maybe that you're going to do a photometric plan, a lighting plan?
Yes, we can prepare a photometric plan.
Yeah.
We just want to confirm where the lights will be in their final spot on the architectural
Where they
drawings.
are on the building.
Correct.
That's the only thing. It's not intended that there be any.
Okay. Sounds like you guys are well on your way. I mean, you guys are like right there, so I think that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Champ?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Jonathan, I thought you talked about it.
I know, blame the electrician for the photometric study, fine. So again, a lot of these housekeeping items, I'm interested in the 2,000-gallon diesel tank. Where's that going to be? Inside, outside?
Outside.
Okay.
And then we're going to speak to, this is the fire safety officer.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask, is what sort of redundant protections are we going to have to make sure that there would be no case of, like, if there was a rupture, that would be any spillage on site? Will there be leak detectors and some kind of a auto dialer or alarm that will notify someone if a leak is detected?
Whatever it is that the fire safety officer is going to require.
All right, and again, auto turn plan, that's fine. Are you going to have a dumpster on site?
Well,
Yeah, a small. Small, we don't have a lot.
Okay.
you don't have a lot to put in it.
No, understood. Just, I know there's some information in our bylaws or our zoning about has to be fenced in and whatnot. So rather than come back because you didn't show a fence, maybe just, follow up and make sure that you've got that covered.
Yes, there's none shown on the plan at this time, but we will ensure that we meet the regulations.
Yeah.
Okay. And the notes about the parking spaces, I know you said you might be taking one away. It doesn't sound like you're going to have a lot of employees on site regularly, but have you come up with some sort of information as far as to allow the town to determine how much parking you actually need on the site?
The number of employees plus how much, 300, one for every 300 square feet.
Of office space, right?
Pardon?
Of office space.
Office space. And I haven't made a calculus on the office
Spots
space.
too, handicapped, right? Handicap spots as well, right?
Yeah, we have one.
Okay.
So is 12 what you need, or is that what you had, but now you're aware that we have one per employee plus one per 300 square feet of office space, so you're going to recalculate?
You're going to recalculate, and the plans were a matter in flux, so I didn't have any square footage for office space.
And the snow storage. So I guess basically as part of the plan, there should be a narrative that the bin that you plan on using for snow storage, assuming that it's adequately sized, that would have to be emptied by a certain amount of time. So what happens if you're still doing asphalt work in October and we get an early storm? And you still have crushed stone in there. So I would recommend maybe looking at some alternatives for snow storage other than the bins. Just, again, this is New England. We can have snow in May, we can have snow in October, and I know typically business can start, especially paving business can start, anywhere from March on through till November, depending on temperature.
Do you like something on the order of a snow management plan?
Yes, I would I think that's what he's looking for, yeah. So we'll include that in our future submission.
And then one of the things I just wanted to mention is, you will have some larger vehicles. If for some reason you have multiple vehicles in your lot, we do not want to see anything queued up on East Street when the trains are coming through, and already that particular intersection is quite challenging. We don't need to add any extra site issues or lane shrinkages or anything like that.
No, there'd be no.
This might be one of the few instances where I would grant a waiver for the bicycle racks, if you were to ask for one.
Yes, anybody that comes with a bicycle, it'd be very few. They could put them in the garage.
All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, so I'm not going to beat these to death, but there's a lot on both of these. I know we did, some of it tonight, but, we meet once in July. We meet once in August. It would be in your best interest to make sure you're crossing all the Ts and dotting all the Is from all of these before you come in next time, or it's only going to drag out the process. And I don't know what your time frame on all this is, but there's a lot on here that we're going to be looking for, either addressed on the plans or answers to. There's more than a handful of things on here that would be waiver requests, if that's what you're going to ask for, but you need to tell us. Ms. Lauder pointed out ones, but we don't have anything that's a request. That's just her pointing out that if they're not going to be addressed and you're going to ask for a waiver, we need to know that. So, that's just a heads up, because, we usually meet twice a month, but that doesn't happen in the summer. So, if we have 2 letters like this again at the next hearing, we're not going to move very far, you know what I mean? So we want to make sure that these things get addressed. If they need to be on the plans, they need to be on the plans. If we need an answer to them, we need an answer to them. Some of tonight was narrative, but, that's fine. But, some of these things need to be hammered out with specifics. Again, whether it's the snow storage being shown. We kind of glossed over the asphalt comment about any of it being stored on, that's not allowed. It can't be there. It's already in here, that's referenced. So it sounded like someone said, yes, there might be. Someone's got to figure out that's not going to be the case, because it can't be the case. So, those are some of the answers that, if we don't get the answer coming out of this first request, the request is just going to go right back on the list, and we're going to be dealing with it again the next time. And that's really just going to slow this whole process down for you. So, that's up to you guys, but I'll give you the heads up now. Early at the beginning, there was a comment about the trucks that they're really never there. But it doesn't make sense in that there's going to be bays for doing repairs on trucks on site. So they must be there, or at least some of them, a lot of the time, it would seem, where you wouldn't need the bays. So if you're doing, we need a number. How often are the trucks going to be on site, and how many are most likely to be on the site at any given time? I understand that generally they're out at sites and all, but I have a feeling that's not the case, that they're all out all the time. They're coming back eventually. So, a number of them, of what is typically going to be on site, and let us know what that is. I don't know how many you have total, and how many of those are going to be, on the site at any given time generally, because that matters. And then some of that's going to be whether they're going to be in the bays, or are they parked out in the lot? If they, is it they're only coming in long enough to be repairs done on them and they're out back out the door? Maybe, but there's some number that those are going to be on site. Like I said, beyond that, I'm not going to go through all these. You guys could take a look at them and, like I said, but you're going to want to address them, because otherwise they're just going to come right back up the next time. All right. So with that, I'll open up to the audience. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none at this time, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue the 913 East Street site plan review, special permit, land disturbance permit.
All right, so we have 7:15.
Mr. Chairman, if I may offer, considering that there is a holiday, 2 holidays really in between now and the next meeting, which is scheduled for July 14th, ordinarily we need about 10 to 14 days to be able to submit to our peer reviewer for further review. So that would put a due date for revised materials at approximately June 30th. If that's something that you find to be reasonable, then I'd say let's move forward with scheduling to the July 14th meeting, of course, understanding that the next meeting after that is not until August 19th, I think. So just wanted to keep that in mind, that we do operate on like a 10 to 14 day turnaround for reviews. And if that's amenable to the applicant, then I think we can move forward with a July 14th continuance.
Is that good, Bill?
That makes sense.
June 30?
And then the submittal deadline after that would be the end of July then?
Roughly, yeah. Yep, the next meeting after that would be August 18th, so we'd be looking at an approximate filing date of, a deadline of end of business on August
So
4th.
submittal date, June 30?
June 30th for the July
And
14th
that would
meeting,
be,
yes.
that would be for the next meeting, July 14?
Correct.
That isn't that far away.
No.
So,
Well, I mean,
It never
again, if
is.
it turns out that you're not going to get the stuff, what I will say is, don't try to bring it in here night of, because we're never going to be able to deal with it, and all you're going to do is show up, and someone here is going to get angry that you just gave us the plans, then we can't really do anything with them at that point. So if it looks like you're not going to get everything in, you can always request the continuance. It's not a big, it's not a major production at that point. But that's, if there was no way you were going to make that, then we could kick it out to August. But if you think you might make it, we'll give you the July 14th meeting, and then if it doesn't look like it's going to work, then, you'll be in communication with Ms. Lowry. You can always request that we push it to the August meeting. We can do that without anybody coming in if everybody knows, what they want in advance. So, all right, so for now, we have a motion to continue this to our July 14th meeting at 7:15. Have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, we'll see you on the 14th.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item F, 2070 Main Street. This is continued from our 6-2 meeting. Gentlemen, once you're settled, just give your names to the record, and the floor is yours.
Richard Bellino, McGovern Hyundai.
Jim Crowley.
John Crandall.
What was that?
John Crandall.
I don't know if we're getting that. Can you just pull the mic over just so they can get it for the record?
John Crandall.
Okay, thank you.
So the first item up is the Robert Sullivan property here at KFC. And what we're requesting right now, because of the lack of time, they're saying that they have the 90 spots available for a function. They've done a couple of functions in the last week and saying there's enough room on the lot for our cars, but I don't have any lot plan from them on to count. They said they counted 90 striped vacant parking spots, including 7 handicap spots, which allows our cars over there. Our cars are 50 cars that are on the end that are extra, but I don't know exactly how many spots they have in the lot plan, because I can't get that from them, because it's only been a week and I just haven't got enough time to do it. So I'm requesting a continuance on that so I can actually survey the land to see where we're at.
Ms. Lauder, did you have something?
The only thing I wanted to add is we already knew they had 90 striped parking spaces, and that's what their occupancy requires. So what we were looking for is whatever their pare-back plan is to not need all 90 spots.
And so so right now they don't have one.
Okay, that's
So-
fine. I just wanted to make sure we understood as we knew
Right,
the 90 is
because
what they
they're
had.
we're saying that through your advice, we have 90 spots. They're saying they have 90 spots plus room for us. So there's pushback there, and they need to give us a plan. I wrote out a plan where they would scale down to 140, which would give me the 50 spots that I would deserve to have to rent it. Or move them as the functions have, but we're still at a passing on that. So I don't want to waste your time to go back and forth, so I need to do some more recaps on that.
So the only thing I would say on this, and it's a detail that I just sort of thought of, but if we're getting to the point where they're going to do some sort of, paring down of their function of how many people, and that's part of the plan of how this is going to work. I mean, if it turns out that they have more spaces than we think they have, and they've just got 90 lined, but they have more than that or something, I don't know what that's about. But if that's true, then we were talking about something different. But if it turns out they've got 90 and they need to give you some of them, then to me, I think part of this plan that they're going to have to, it's not just enough that they're going to agree to say, oh, we won't use all the spots for our functions. I think what we're going to need is we're going to need them to give us, I don't need to know whose party it is, but we're going to need to have running, whether it's monthly or something, we can figure that out, but, of what their scheduled functions are and, what they're renting that hall out for over the course of while you guys are there. And because just saying, oh, we won't use them. And then all of a sudden, you drive by there and then it's like we're chasing the whole time. It's like, oh, well, it turns out we used them all again. I'm not doing that. Like we need to, they're going to agree to something. They need to agree to something that we can keep track of, especially if it's going to be using spaces that they otherwise are supposed to have and need, just because they don't feel like they need them isn't really sufficient, so we're going to have to figure out what exactly that language looks like. But, I think it needs to be, that all has to be part of this plan if that's what this is going to be, or what's going to be proposed anyways.
So not to interrupt you, so we're getting to the point where, because it's only 50 cars, if we're going to go back and forth, then I won't waste your time all the time. There may be a resolution for us to move the cars somewhere else. I'm not going to play games with them back and forth, and like you said, how are we going to track it? Am I going to get down there? They're going to, what are the functions and all that? So we're working on that. So I just need a little more time to just decide what we're going to do there.
All right. So,
if that's okay.
Yep, that's right. So because hold on a second. Because we started having a conversation, do I have to ask if anybody in the audience has any comments? I know we don't have anybody in the audience, but just so it's on the record.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So being that there's no one in the audience, obviously there is no audience comment. So now the applicant has requested that this be continued to our next meeting, which we have 7:20 available. Do I have a motion to continue this till our July 14th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. That brings us to 2212 Main Street, also from our last meeting. Agenda item G.
Okay, so you were going to look to see if there was even an opportunity for Mr. Proctor to allow, because he wasn't paying taxes, if he could rent it. That you were going to check with town council or whatever, but he since then came in actually this morning and reached an agreement that 100% of the rent that we pay them would go directly to you guys. And I have a letter stating that from the town, if you don't mind. I think in a couple of them down, we have enough for everybody.
Okay, I hate paper.
Give me one.
No paper for me.
Thank you.
So I guess he reached an agreement this morning stating that 100% of that, the proceeds that we pay them, the $5,300 would be going directly to you guys. So I guess we'd be paying him and he would be paying you.
So my concern is, if we renege on this somehow, some way, it puts you in a pickle and the town in a pickle as well.
We can set it up so that we pay directly.
Huh?
We can set it up so we could pay directly to the...
Yeah, I guess that would be my only question. I mean, this looks, I don't know if they had some conversation, but obviously we weren't made aware that the tax collectors had a conversation. I don't know what the tax collector's expectation was. If their expectation was that you guys pay it directly to the town, I feel a little more comfortable with that for one, but I don't know what that agreement is. I see this, but I don't know beyond that.
Yeah, I have not spoken with the tax collector, but in just briefly reading this letter, it looks like that all of the responsibility lies with the taxpayer
with him.
themselves. So I think we'd have to have further conversations about whether the applicants here would be fulfilling that payment obligation directly to the town, or if it still is going through the taxpayer, because the way I read this, it would still go through the taxpayer.
That's what and I don't think that makes sense, because as of right now, what our answer to our question was is that while we may or may not be able to do what we discussed last time, more importantly, we can consider the application incomplete because the taxes aren't paid, which would just simply stop the application at this point, because we don't have everything we're supposed to have. If we want to continue this to the next hearing as well, just while we try to get some sort of understanding of what the town's expectation of this is and what they'd be comfortable with. And, you guys can stay in contact between now and our next meeting so that when you come in the next time, if there is a real understanding that you guys just cut the check to the town, then we can talk about it. I mean, at that point, I don't know about the other members, but my guess is nothing else is going on that property right now.
Cars are still there.
This isn't the same issue as the Knights of Columbus. There's no other active activity going on there. So if there's a way to work this out, then this one might work. But like I said, obviously we need a little more information from what the tax collector was.
I haven't met the gentleman, but it sounds like without us paying him rent, he doesn't have any money to pay anyways. So we are going to help pay down that debt.
Yeah.
In whatever shape.
Right, but seeing as that the debt got up to this amount, him cutting a check to the town seems to be one of the issues that doesn't happen. So that would be where we'd be a little concerned with you cutting him a check and waiting for a check from him. So, all right. So again, we started this discussion, so I'll open up to the audience. No one in the audience here, so there are no comments from the audience.
Can I say something?
Yep.
So I understand there's no benefit for us, for the town of Tewksbury, for us being on that lot. And we kind of hooked up with a guy that's obviously misrepresented the town of Tewksbury by not paying the taxes. We need a year to put our cars on it. We're looking for any way possible. If writing the check directly to the town, even if that's going to help, he looks like he owes like $56,000. The place is up for foreclosure. It could be sold tomorrow. I guess they had a foreclosure today. I don't know what happened at that regard, and we're going to get thrown out either way. So if there is some way that we can help you get some money from this gentleman in the interim, because it looks like this foreclosure thing just keeps getting continued, and it will probably do that. We only need 12 to 18 months.
Would you, like I said, I think.
So tell us what you want us to do.
The answer I'm thinking we're going to end up with, if it works and it can be done and everybody's in agreement, I think it's the one where you guys write the check to the town. But let's just get that confirmed and checked, and then the next time, hopefully we'll have that answer, and then we can at least do one of the two of these and resolve that.
Okay.
All right.
Because we will rewrite the lease that the payment not to interrupt, we will rewrite the lease to make sure that the payment goes there. And I will talk to Mr. Proctor on that.
I was going to say, I think if that is not a viable option, would there be a way to explore setting up an escrow, right, which is then in the name of the property owner? However, those funds automatically get dispersed to the town.
Yeah, I don't like the extra step, though. Like, that's the only thing. I mean, if we can't get it where they can just write the check to us, then we got to think about this again, I think. But hopefully that is something that can be done. It's kind of like, basically, we'll treat it like a direct deposit to the town, and you could send a receipt to the owner.
Right, so.
Me, I'd rather send it to the
So just so I'm clear, I go to him tomorrow and say, listen, the only way this is working is you got to write it directly.
You have to write it.
Well,
Yeah.
We will write it directly.
But I want to make sure that we clear that with.
No, I understand.
Tax collector.
And if that's the case, we can rewrite the lease and show the payment, so on our end.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
we're
that'll
like
be your
caught in
part
the
of it.
middle
But I
of
want to
this.
make sure that our end is in agreement with what we think we're seeing here. All I have is, you know what I mean, I want to know what their real
I'll
understanding
speak with
is.
the tax collector
And
tomorrow.
just shoot me an email
100%.
and tell me how to proceed, so we stop wasting your time, and we can just figure this thing out.
I would just wait until you hear from Alex, and she'll have the information for you, I'm sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
One more quick question. It sounds like that back to the Knights, that they have a parking lot that's bigger than we think it is. Is that somewhat accurate, or?
It's accurate, but inaccurate. So where they have some line spots where they have one car each, I have 3 cars in that spot.
Yeah.
So whether that fits the mold or the identity of what's going on there, because they're drawn out so much, I can put the smaller cars, most of them are 2, some are 3.
All right, but I'm going to stop that there only because we're talking about the wrong hearing.
Yeah,
that
I'm
we've
sorry.
already-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
All right, so with that, I'm going to take a motion to continue 2212 Main Street to 725 on the 14th, July 14th.
So moved.
A motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good luck, guys. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to agenda item H, which we were actually going to put off until our next meeting because they're not able to come tonight, so we'll just push that off.
Okay.
All right? So, I don't have to do anything, that's just coming from the administrators, right? Yeah, okay, so that's done. All right, that brings us to a correspondence. We have one piece of correspondence in the packet. This is a notice for Route 133 Cannabis holding community outreach on July 2nd, 2025 at 5:30 PM. Where are they having this?
Knights of Columbus.
Knights of Columbus, all right.
Which
So
means no more than so many people.
All right, so there you go. So that takes care of correspondence. Any other business not known at the time of the posting of the agenda?
I have just one question for Alex, maybe, and she can answer it, maybe not, but, you know, is the town paving Whipple Road,
Portions of it, yes.
the one that they repaired?
Yes.
I got 2 or 3 phone calls from people saying, who is repairing the road on Whipple Road? It's not even smooth, it's like boom, 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 boom. So, I don't know, I didn't know the town was doing it, but
Yes, so due to the really high costs for paving work and the need for that particular area to be done, that is being done in-house. So it's not typical paving work that the town is used to doing on its own.
people were asking me, how come it takes so long for paving to be done, and that, then they close the street off and then pave the whole
It's
thing?
being done by staff as they're available, but the conditions in that area were becoming unmanageable, so they did opt to cut out the pieces and pave it themselves, but because it's not being done by a company who would operate on a dedicated, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, what have you, schedule, they're doing it as they're able, so it's taking a little bit longer.
Yeah, okay.
All right, anyone else?
All set, Mr.
All
Chairman.
set.
All right, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
A motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
All those opposed, motion carries. We'll see you on the 14th.